Hi everybody, my name is Dusk. Welcome to Realm of the Sacred Roots. Today I wanted to talk about working with animal spirits. It's 12/12/2019, which I call 12/12/12. You can figure that out, the number of completion. And it's also a full moon. So I thought it was just appropriate to talk about animal spirits today. Animals have been very strong in my life. I have quite a few stories to share with you. I'm hoping what you'll get out of this you can use in your own workings, in your own life, and on your path, on your journey. It's very important, I think, to incorporate animals, insects into your workings. These creatures, these beings are all around us and they're always with us. And so in order to, and I realize this, in order to have an expansive repertoire or toolkit that I could work with, I needed to include animals. And so what happened was initially I was I guess a little background first. I used to work with the light, and then I went over to the other side, the dark. And then it was time for me to transition out of that darker place. When I call it darker, working with demons and the underworld. And it was time for me to transition out of that phase of my spiritual work. It doesn't mean that that phase is over completely. It just means for the time being, it was time for me to shift over. So that's what happened. And snake was the animal that came to me first within dreams first. And then also in the physical world, I started seeing snakes everywhere. I'd see snake skin, representative again of death and rebirth. And I started to pick up that snake was trying to reach me. It was basically telling me that this moment, this phase was transitioning out and over into a newer phase, a newer walk in my journey. And that's exactly what happened. I basically ended up moving over from the one phase I was into the other. Snake is amazing. Even in real life, you'll see things, and it doesn't mean that snake will come to you, especially if you're afraid of snake. I just happen to enjoy and like snakes, so that's the animal that came to me, representative of death and rebirth. But the animal most likely one that you're not afraid of will come to you and speak to you in dreams and in real life. I was on I studied herbs for a while, and so we went on a big herb walk basically into the forest, and we were with a group of just a group of us walking, and there was a kind of like a swampy area over to our left where there were alligators in there. So everyone's looking in the water as we're walking. This large snake crawls in front of me on the floor, and all the girls pretty much started screaming. But I had a calmness, a peace about me. I respect snake, but I didn't freak out. I didn't scream. I just told everyone it's okay. It's okay. I identified the snake, and it just kept moving on about its business. So working with the animal, not only in the spirit realm, but I believe in the physical realm, will give you a certain calmness, a certain peace about the animal, because you start to work with it and you realize that you now have a rapport and a relationship with this animal. Of course, using common sense, is really important as well. So after snake came, and I did transition onto more of a shamanistic a circle. I trained under a shaman for a couple of years. Then I started to see other animals came to me. Turtle and bear came to me. Bear was quite interesting because I would walk my dog. I lived on a preserve at the time, and I would walk my dog, and I would just sense bear spirit. It was pretty amazing. But I was looking all the time, thinking a bear was going to jump out of the woods. That's how strong the bear spirit was, that I can sense it. Which was pretty amazing. And then one day I went to my friend who was the shaman, and she looked at me, and she she said, have you been working with bear lately? And I said, it's interesting you said that, because I've been sensing bear for the last 2 or 3 months out in the woods. I know there's one around. And she said, well, I see a bear talking back at me. Even though it's you, I see a bear talking back to me. So most likely, we, pretty much summed it up as either I was sensing another, or I was sensing myself becoming bear at the time. So just very interesting connections with the animal world. Not only that, I would recommend, if you find an animal that you have a really good connection with and you want to meet it spiritually, which is what I did with bear. So that's what I did when I meditated. I asked bear spirit to come to me so we could meet, so I could talk. And literally, I looked over to my right, and sure enough, there was a big brown grizzly right next to me. And I slowly put my hand out to touch it, as if it were almost a real bear. Like, I slowly put my hand out to see if it would allow me to touch it. You have to be very careful, even in the spirit realm, to use common sense. And it did. It allowed me to actually rub it a couple of times. So these are just some stories that I'm hoping will help you in your walk as well. Another time I was actually in meditation and I saw a field of bears, and I was able to walk among them, and I didn't understand why they weren't looking at me. They weren't paying any attention to me. And of course, in my head, I'm thinking, even though, I have this connection and rapport with the bear, why they weren't really paying any attention to me. And it was then that I realized I was bear, and I was among the bear. Of course, they wouldn't look at me any different because I was one. I was a bear. And so that goes a little bit into some shape-shifting, spiritual shape-shifting that we can talk about in another video if you guys want me to address that as well. So those things happened. So bear was interesting. And then I had another experience with Buzzard, which was interesting because I was, again, with my dog, and I was throwing the ball back and forth with him, and I went to go pick up the ball from the ground, and I saw this buzzard flying around, but via the shadow on the ground. And it was an ominous feeling. We know we also use our senses. And it was really like just an ominous, just like, So I got my dog and I started walking back over to the vehicle to put him back in. And I saw 2 pit bulls loose walking the roads. And they were walking the road like this, almost like they were on a search for something. I was so thankful that I had enough sense in me to, one, listen to the warning of Buzzard, and then also grab my dog and head back over to the vehicle, okay? So I guess my point, I have 100 stories I can tell you, but my point is, with the stories, animals are an important part of our working. They're an important part of our magic because they're always there with us, no matter where we go. I'll always see a buzzard, no matter where I go. So also, some of these animals that come to you, realize you could have been most likely associated with or worked with in a past life as well. So that's another interesting thing to keep in mind. Again, I can talk more on that in a different video if you guys want. So I thought that was interesting. And then I thought I would end it on a topic of insects, which would be bees. So it's somewhat a long story, and I would like to tell it next time. But I basically had this person who was wanting to spy on me. I used to tell stories a lot about my experiences, and I would have my magic friends that would listen, and we would share experiences. But for some reason, this person started to become a little jealous, wanted to, try to get some type of spy, basically, and to watch me, which was a really bad idea on their part. So, of course, I took care of that, and I went to visit their place spiritually, astral travel. Again, that's probably another topic for another time. And I didn't like that. You don't do that. There's a code that we have amongst each other, that you respect each other. And if you don't like each other, then you walk away. It's okay. But the jealous game doesn't work well, and it just doesn't. So long story short, and I'll elaborate on this story next time because it's part of a bigger story. Anyways, I ended up sending insects. I ended up sending bees over. Some people may agree, some people may not agree, but hey, my point is, if somebody is coming after you and you have the means to protect yourself and to defend yourself, and as a rule of thumb, and or made to make an example of someone, you probably should do that. You probably should do that. And that's why I have a no nonsense policy, basically. Yes, no, I don't play. And so neither should you. Neither should you make yourself a target or continue to be a target. So that's what happened. Sending bees into their home, not knowing that they were allergic to bees, but this is what I was told. And so that what I was told to do as far as the insect, it just happened. Your higher self sometimes steps in and just takes care of things for you. And so that's what happened. So the summary, or the whole point of this story, is all in all, we work all kinds of magic, whether it's light, whether it's dark, but let's include our brothers, as a Native American say, right? Our brothers and sisters. Let's include our animals, our insect friends. Let's include them in our magic and our workings, because they're an integral part of what we do. It's pretty amazing. From being able to send as spies, to be able to bring back messages, to be able to shapeshift into, and or just the benefit of having a relationship with these amazing, amazing creatures. It's well worth it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe. I'll have plenty more videos for you. I have so many stories to share with you. I'm hoping you can add them to your toolbox, even if it's just one thing. It's important that you grow and add. Listen to the video again as you drive or as you're sitting there, and then pull out what you can use in your own work. If you have any questions, like I said, write down below, let me know, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. Thank you again.